Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for checking out my video. This is your host, of course, ID Jester. We are going to be talking about and looking at Routing 101. This is going to be a comprehensive look at the route phase for Advanced Squad Leader and Tigers on the Hunt. So, welcome. I should mention at the start here that some of these rules may or may not apply to Tigers on the Hunt, which is, of course, strongly inspired by the rules for ASL, but is not an exact copy. So check the rule book for Tigers on the Hunt on the exact routing mechanic that it uses, but at least you can watch and learn some stuff on routing that may or may not apply to you in Tigers on the Hunt. Anyways, if some of you may or may not know that I have posted and recorded many Advanced Squad Leader rule videos and tutorials. I've posted them here on my YouTube channel. And of course, I have links on the Board Game Geek website. If you look under Advanced Squad Leader, you should also be able to find my videos as well. As I mentioned, this is going to be a comprehensive look at the route phase. This is going to be an in-depth, total understanding of the complete route phase. And it's going to take several videos, and we're going to take this step by step, slowly. We're actually going to be looking at each line individually and talking about each line of the rule book because, as you can see, there's only less than 2 pages of rules that you have to learn. So there's not a lot of rules associated with routing, but it is my number one, by far, my number one requested question or video. People have, it seems like, the most difficulty with routing, and it is one of the most important aspects of Advanced Squad Leader. So, we'll be looking at each of the rules. We'll be going over them line by line by line and giving you thorough and detailed examples in Vassal, so you can follow along when we're talking about the rules. I will give you examples in Vassal here so that you can understand what the rule is meaning. So a couple things of note. Whenever we use Vassal throughout this series, number one rule is none of these counters on the edge matter at all. Just ignore them. These are just placeholders, so instead of me having to go up here every time to get units, these units are just on the map to bring down so that I can position units quickly and easily in the middle of the map. So just ignore them. They're not there. So if I have an American unit over here and he's routing this way, I don't want people going, well, how can he route that way when there's Germans over here? Ignore all of these units. Just, they're not there on the map. They don't count. Just totally ignore that they're there. Again, they're just placeholder units. Second thing of note is throughout this video series, whenever we use Vassal, you can see here by our phase disk, we're on the Axis side. So it is the Axis side that is the attacker in all of our scenarios that we're going to be dealing with, which means the German player is the attacker, the American is the defender for this turn. So this way we have some standardization on what's going on in between the different episodes and the different videos. Doesn't matter which map we use, which units we use, it's always going to be the Axis player is going to be the active player for their turn. And again, just ignore all the counters on this side. The only thing that's going to matter is pretty much just the units that are going to be kind of in the middle of the maps. So, just kind of ignore everything else on the edge, okay? Thank you. So, again, routing is by far my number one requested or questioned video. People that have questions about routing. It is ultra important because it's so important to understand routing. And if you watch some of my Tigers on the Hunt video, you can see in these videos the fact that I'm able to surround enemy units and eliminate them for failure to route without firing a bullet. And that just helps you that much more in your scenario if you can do that. So let's just think about what is routing and just ballpark, not even looking at the rules here. I'm just ballparking this off the top of my head. So routing is basically if somebody is shooting at you. If you go and look at any video, any tragic situation where there's something going on and people are getting shot at, what does every normal person do? They duck and they run for cover. That's it. They duck and they run for cover. And they try to get away and they try to get behind a wall or something. So if the bullets come flying their way, a wall is going to get in the way, or a tree, or a car, or whatever. So that's pretty much routing in a nutshell, is the fact that your units are trying to duck and run away and find cover, trying to get away from the person shooting at them and try to find some cover. That's basically the route phase in a nutshell. And that's why I think there isn't a lot of rules with it, because it's not hard to understand. It's just hard to comprehend what these rules mean in the rule book. So we're going to look at each one of these and we're going to delve into them. And hopefully these rules will start to sink in for some people and make some understanding about what's going on, and maybe clear up some of the confusion or doubt about what you can or cannot do during the route phase. Okay, so again, this is going to be a comprehensive look at this. This is not going to be just a 20-second, a 20-minute video and be done with it. I have a video out there on routing in my previous video series. So if you're interested, please go to Board Game Geek and look at the Advanced Squad Leader page. You'll see my videos on there. Or you can just do a search here on YouTube or on my channel and see if you can find them as well. And if I can find it, I will put it in the link in the description below to kind of help you out. If you're just looking for a quick 30-minute or 40-minute or whatever it happened to be, back in the day when I created it, kind of an overview video on routing, then feel free to watch that. But this video series is going to be more in-depth. It's going to be a lot more comprehensive. It's going to we're going to delve into routing and really study the rule. It's going to take several videos and it's going to be long. So I appreciate it if you're willing to learn and you're trying to learn. I get, still to this day, I get tons and tons of emails and messages from people thanking me and telling me what a great job these video series in the past that I had done for ASL. They wish I would continue them. And basically playing Tigers on the Hunt really got me inspired back in ASL, getting some more rules out there and talking with people about Advanced Squad Leader and kind of get me back in the swing of things, kind of re-energized me and got me interested. So again, if you're not familiar with Tigers on the Hunt, it's a great game inspired by Advanced Squad Leader. I would definitely go to the publishers. It's a computerized version. So you can go to the publisher's website, which is matrixgames.com, and do a search for Tigers on the Hunt that way. And the game is made by just one dedicated lover of the tactical World War II combat system. And he's done a great job of implementing an ASL inspired look to his version of the game. Anyways, again, this is going to be a comprehensive look. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be looking at this paragraph. Probably be spending the rest of this video just talking about just this one paragraph because it's so ultra important. In fact, this first line is pretty much most everything you need to know about routing, and that's why I really want to delve into this first line of of uh, of text. Now this actually starts this way. So during the route phase, a broken unit not melee may not remain in the same open ground hex in the normal range and line of sight of a known non-melee enemy unit, its support weapon or gun, nor regardless of terrain may end in a route phase adjacent to or in the same location as a known enemy that is both unbroken and armed. Okay, well, try saying that 3 times fast and trying to comprehend it. If you're not familiar with ASL, which I know probably some of you are, maybe in Starter Kit 1 or just trying to learn ASL, and you read this, and this is why, it's paragraphs like this that turn a lot of people off. It's because it's like it makes no sense whatsoever, and that's why we're going to delve in and actually find it. The most important thing in this whole first sentence is this one little word, nor, actually, and that's why I capitalized it myself, nor regardless of terrain. And in fact, we are going to highlight this as ultra important by putting it as pink. There we go. Thank you. Go away. I don't want you anymore. I don't need you. Go away. Turn it off. Thank you. All right. So you have this thing going on, nor this thing going on. And that's the important part, because a lot of people read this first part and go, during a route phase, a broken unit, not melee, may not remain in the same open ground hex. Well, that means you can't end in an open ground hex, right? Well, that's not exactly true. If you look at the rule, it says you may not remain in the same open ground hex in the normal range and line of sight of a known non-melee enemy unit, its support weapon or gun. So what that means is, if we talk about this, if we were to bring up this American unit, so these two are the only 2 units we care about at this point. Ignore all the other counters on the map. This unit, if we look at it, is actually here in an open hex, but it's not in the normal range. If you look at this hex, or this unit here, he only has 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm outside his normal range, which means I don't have to worry about this unit shooting me or damaging me. He's too far away. So I could stay in normal open hex. So with that said, and we're going to highlight this in, we're going to highlight this in yellow so that we know that this is like important part that we're talking about here. During a route phase, a broken unit not melee. So again, we are only talking about, of course, we start off and we're in the prep fire phase, then we're going to go to the movement phase, the defensive fire phase, advanced fire phase, and then we have our route phase. All right, so that's when it happens, and this is the only time players units are going to route is during, obviously, the route phase. That's why it's called the route phase. It's named for what you're going to be doing. You cannot route any other time, only during the route phase. So what happens is, with this said, you also have to take into consideration the nor. So it's this nor this happens. So let's look at the nor. Regardless of terrain, may it end a route phase adjacent to or in the same location as a known enemy unit that is both unbroken and armed. All right, so I'm going to put that in yellow as well. So we have this nor this can happen. Neither one of those 2 things can happen. All right. So with that said, everything else is okay. Well, we'll talk about some of the exceptions and stuff. So without implying it, what it's saying is, if you're in the woods, you're fine. You don't need to route. If you're in a building, you're fine. You don't need to route. If you are behind anything that causes a die roll modifier, such as crops or smoke, or if you're in a foxhole or anything like that, you are fine. You don't need to route away. The only people that need to route away are the people that are A, within the normal range and line of sight of a known enemy unit. So we have to talk about known enemy units, and we have to talk about normal range, unfortunately, for just this one sentence. So let's go down and just briefly talk about them. So open ground, all right? So what are we talking about when we're talking about a broken unit that may not remain in the same open ground hex? Open ground hex. So we got to find out what is an open ground hex. Ultra important. So for purposes of route, dash, or concealment, gain, or loss, or an interdiction, an open ground hex is any hex in which any indicator could apply a hypothetical defensive first fire opportunity -1 FFMO die roll modifier. So that's obviously the die roll modifier for moving in the open, right? So if we look at this, this guy is out in the open, right? He's out in the open and he has no, if I was in the movement phase, all right, if I was in the movement phase, let's just ignore the disc right now. Let's assume I'm in the movement phase. And I move here, this guy would defensive fire on me. He would get a -1 to his attack from FFMO because I'm moving out in the open. All right? If I was to move from here to here and crops were in season, this unit would not get the -1 FFMO because I am, he's shooting through crops, which is a modifier. Uh, he would not get the -1 FFMO to his attack. So the same situation goes if I am a router here. Since he can't get the -1 to attack me if he was normally attacking me because of the crops, then I don't need to route from that unit. So that's basically what the open ground means. Second thing is, what was the second thing we were talking about? Open ground hex, normal range and line of sight of a known enemy, known enemy, non-melee enemy unit. So that is ultra important too, because if this unit was concealed, I do not know what that unit is. It has a concealment marker on it. It is not a known enemy unit to me. So, of course, this would not apply to Tigers on the Hunt because they don't have concealment. But, of course, advanced squad leader, we have concealment counters. So, if this unit is concealed, then he's not a known enemy unit. If this unit here, let's take this guy and this guy right there, these guys are in melee, they don't count as well because a open ground hex in the normal range and line of sight of a known non-melee enemy unit. So enemy units in melee do not count for routing. So if this guy was not here, I would not, happened to be here. So let's ignore all the counters again except for just these two. These guys are in melee. This is my unit that's broken. I don't have to route away because this guy doesn't count Even though he has the range and I'm in line of sight of him, he doesn't count. Things that do count are put this guy right there. Known enemy units in normal range and line of sight. Yep. Okay. So this guy counts. I have to route. Okay. Leader. Whether he has a weapon or not. In fact, we will give this leader a weapon. It matters because I'm in his line of sight. Poof. This guy there. Does not have a weapon. In fact, this is explained actually, and this is why I said the wording in this is really bad, because they should have put this in. A leader with no support weapon is still considered armed for purposes of determining legal route path and enforcing failure to route eliminations. All right, so that's actually talking about the actual path of the unit. Okay. So we'll get to that maybe in another video or whatever. So again, normal range 2, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm only 4 spaces away. So I would have to route from this guy, bloop, and get out of there because I'm in a normal hex. Again, this only applies if you are out in the open, right? So if I'm in a wood hex, okay, if I'm in a building hex, I can stay there. I can stay right there as well. One thing I cannot do is part 2 of this, nor, regardless of terrain, may it end a route phase adjacent to or in the same location as a known enemy unit that is both unbroken and armed. So if this guy happens to be here, it doesn't matter if I'm in a building or not, I have to get away from him. He's adjacent to me. I have to route away. We're going to, give you some route examples when we talk about directions. Right now, we're just talking about those units that have to route, absolutely positively have to route. Now, just because, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's see, I'm going to redo this for a second. Move this guy away, move this guy away. That's fine. I'm going to bring in another example here. All right, so I have this unit here, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm within his normal range and line of sight. I have to route away from this guy right there. Absolutely positively have to route away. What we can do, though, is do it like this again. All right, so this guy here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm not within normal range of this unit, so I don't have to route away, but I can route away. So obviously, I don't want to stand out here in the open. So if I can route, it's best for me to get out of the open so this guy doesn't shoot me next turn and wipe me out. So just because I'm outside his normal range doesn't mean I can't route. All it's saying with these rules are these units have to must route. Okay? So during the route phase, a unit not in melee may not remain in the same open ground hex in the normal range and line of sight of a known non-melee enemy unit, its support weapon or gun. Boom. That cannot happen, nor this cannot happen, regardless of terrain may it end a route phase adjacent to or in the same location as a known enemy unit that is both unbroken and armed. So anytime, no matter what the situation is, if you are broken and you are adjacent to an enemy, you must route away. If you can't, your unit is eliminated for failure to route. Any unit that is out in the open, again, out in the open means that they can apply the -1 FFMO modifier. This unit is not out in the open because the crops, assuming crops were in season, if crops were not in season, I have to route away because this guy would get a -11 FFMO if I move from this unit to this space to this space. He would get a -1 to his attack. If crops were not in season, I'm in his normal range, I'm in his line of sight. So this unit has to absolutely route away. So just think of, just take your unit and say, okay, if let's say my unit's here, I would just, move it from one hex to the next hex. If I move into that hex, is this unit going to get a -1 FFMO if we were doing the movement phase? And if it would get that, then yes, I have to route away. Absolutely, positively, must route. And again, anytime, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter if it's a um, let's see, it doesn't matter if it's an armed leader or whatever, cannot, absolutely cannot, regardless of terrain mate and adjacent to the same location as a known enemy unit that is both unbroken and armed. So the leader that's armed cannot stay in there. Nope, gotta go, gotta get away, blop, gotta go. And we'll talk about directions here when we get down to section 10.51, which is another ultra important part of it. That's why this rule, there is of course an exception, which is night. And I'm not really going to talk about the exception to night because not many scenarios happen at night. It's kind of an obscure rule, and you can just look up the rule if you're playing a night scenario. All right, so a leader with no support weapon is still considered armed for purposes of determining legal route path and enforcing failure to route eliminations. Again, this should be taken out of there and it should be put into directions somewhere, wherever makes sense. So I'm actually just going to put it down here because it doesn't have anything to do with routing and who needs to route and why. All right, so we're just going to ignore that line because, again, that is talking about direction, not about who needs to route or why they need to route. Broken units must route away, attacker first, one at a time, and there is another exception we're going to talk about during the route phase or be eliminated for failure to route. So broken units must route away, attacker first, one at a time. So again, when we talk about the turn of events here, if we had a situation like this, where we have a German unit that's broken, we have an American unit that's broken, we have an American unit that's okay. Of course, we talked about this previously. It is the Germans' attacker's turn. It's the route phase. The attacker must route away first, which means the German player must route their units away first, which can come into play on where you can go when you're routing away, because enemy units, you cannot end adjacent to them, and you have to route away from units, enemy units. So attacker first, one at a time. And we're going to talk about the most important part of that with its direction coming up in another video. There is an exception, which is a voluntary route, and that is 10.71. And I'll mention it now, but we're not going to get into details of this unit. But basically what that means is if I have, let's just put out a unit here, I'll put it here. All right, there we go. we're just going to slide this aside so no one gets confused. All right. This unit is break them, there we go. All right, so if this unit is, its German player is the attacker, so we're going to have to route away first. We have this broken unit right here. So basically, rule 10.711, voluntary route, a non-berserk, non-pin leader already stacked with a broken unit before it routes may elect to route with the broken unit even though he is not broken. If he does so, the leader shares the broken unit's vulnerability to interdiction, and though he does not have to take any interdiction normal morale checks himself, he is eliminated if the broken unit he is stacked on fails an interdiction morale check. He must remain with the broken unit throughout the route phase. He's not considered broken, and it may add his die roll modifier to any interdiction, normal morale check. The leader, if already in possession of support weapon, may portage it, but cannot improve the broken unit's portage capacity. So again, what all that means is this unit has to, no, let's do it like this. This unit is here. We are in the normal range. We're in the line of sight of a known enemy unit. We have no cover or terrain that's going to modify his attack, so we must route away. We are in an open hex there, as you can see, so we have to route away. So the leader can voluntarily say, you know what, I am going to go with my broken unit. So instead of just staying in this hex and having the unit route, the leader can also route with them. So you must declare that first, and the leader must continue routing with the unit wherever he goes. He cannot stop. And of course, if the leader is pinned, you cannot do that. So a couple rules applied with that. So if he is pinned, oops, take that up. That's not what I wanted to do. Hang on. There we go. So if the leader is pinned, he can't do that. The unit would have to route without him. Of course, the advantage of routing your leader away with your broken unit is he has a better chance of rallying the unit with the leader that's with him. So obviously, quite helpful if the leader can go with them. So that's what that part of the rule says. Let's go back up to the top here. So broken units absolutely must route away. That's ultra important, so we're going to pink that in pink again. Broken units must route away attacker first, one at a time. The exception to that is voluntary route. So again, we just looked at that voluntary route example. We'll get more details of that because as you see with that paragraph, there's a little bit more to it than what meets the eye, but the basics is leaders can voluntarily just go with the broken unit during the route phase or be eliminated for failure to route. Of course, there's an exception, which is surrender. Again, I'm not going to really cover surrender because that's kind of a out of the scope of what we were really talking about. You can look up surrender. So instead of eliminating units, you can surrender your units and get into that whole part of the rule book if you wish. So if you want to look that rule up, it's 20.21. So basically, this whole episode was just kind of talking about the series coming up and this one little paragraph, and basically talking about the kind of the most important thing, though, which is this first phase, and understanding that there's this part of it, which I'm actually going to now put into another color. So we have the green part of it. During the route phase, a broken unit not melee may not remain in the same open ground hex in the normal range and line of sight of a known non-melee enemy unit, its support weapon or gun. Boom. Nor, regardless of terrain, may end a route phase adjacent to or in the same location as a known enemy unit that is both unbroken and armed. So by saying all of that, it's also saying, oh yeah, by the way, If you are in woods, you're fine. Oh yeah, you don't have to route. You can route if you want, but you don't have to. If you're in building, oh yeah, again, you can route, but you don't have to. If you are outside the normal range and in line of sight of an enemy, you can route, but you don't have to. It doesn't say all that, and I think that's why a lot of people are confused about routing. Is it doesn't say, well, if I'm 8 spaces away and I'm outside his normal range, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess that might be a bad example. Um, hmm, Move him here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Okay. So it doesn't say in the rule book if I'm 7 spaces away and I'm outside his normal range and I'm in the woods, do I have to route? No, you don't have to route, but you can choose to route. And of course, this comes into play much easier when you don't have the um, uh, long range of fire like the Americans have a 6 here. If we're talking about like a German unit here that is an 8-3-8, if we take a broken American unit here, you know, let's put him there. That's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces away outside his normal range. I don't have to route. I can route if I want to, but I don't have to. More than likely, though, if you're out in the open, you will definitely want to route. There's no sense in staying out in the open. Anytime your units are broken, let's put her. Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. You don't want to keep them out in the open. And there's reasons for that, which we're going to talk about. Number one is you're not going to get any bonus to rallying. You're not going to be able to route back to leaders. So if there's a leader in this hex, I want to route back to this guy because he'll give me a bonus, right? Um, to rallying. If an enemy shoots at me again, I'm out in the open. I'm going to take more damage. I want to try to get away from the enemies as best I can. So there's lots of advantages. You don't want to stay out in the open. But those units that absolutely have to route are those units that are, you are within our normal range, 3 hexes, you're 2 hexes away, and you are out in the open. This one can be like this, and I do not have to route because if I was here and I moved here in the movement phase, this unit would not get a -1 MMO if crops were in season. So I do not have to, but you know what? I probably do want to get the hell out of there because being out in the open and broken is bad news for any broken unit. You do not want to do it, and we're going to talk about that in another episode where we talk about different strategies and things to do to help you figure out, different strategies to use to help eliminate units, how to prevent your units from being overrun so easily or damaged or whatever. And a lot of the time it comes back to what happens during the route phase. So if you're adjacent to an enemy unit, guess what? You got to route. You got to get out of there. You got to go. You got to get away from them. Um, you cannot be adjacent to an enemy unit. And that's a lot of good strategies. If it's a German player's movement turn, the German player, a different unit already broken this unit, what ends up happening is, he moves up here during the movement phase and he forces you to route away and maybe route in the open so some of his other units can try to kill you or whatever happens to be the situation. We're going to talk about that, more of that stuff in another episode. So basically in this, we have 2 things that must route away. We have 2 situations. Anything else you can route. You don't have to. It's up to you. But if any of these, either green or yellow, applies, you must route away. All right, we will look at some more rules here in our Routing 101 comprehensive look at the routing phase. Thank you so much for watching. This has been your host, ID Jester. Look forward to helping you in the next episode. Thanks for watching, guys.